Carlos Sainz's future is still hanging in the air. And after the latest statements coming from Red Bull, it's obvious why the Spaniard is taking his time regarding the next seat he'll be driving in. However, with Sainz's value being much more than Red Bull could offer, considering the fact that they have a stable driver in Verstappen, it's doubtful whether they'll go all in on the smooth operator. But what's very important is that the interest as well as the talks are there. So with not many options on the table for Sainz, is this the best move for his career? And if so, could he put Verstappen under much more pressure than Perez? Look, it goes without saying that Carlos Sainz is currently one of the most wanted assets on the grid. But after one spot in Aston Martin has been shut down with Alonso's move, the rest of the grid are reluctant to wait out a long period of time to find out where Sainz's mind sits at. That's why Red Bull have reportedly held talks with the young Spaniard driver, with Helmut Marko opening up about the situation, adding, "We're talking to Carlos Sainz. He's having his best season in Formula 1, but he has a very lucrative offer from Audi and we cannot match or beat that." However, what's very important is to see where Red Bull currently sits with Sergio Perez, who's very adamant that he will continue to be the second driver in the Austrian team once the contract talks come up on the table. This is a matter that's been addressed by Marko as well, who while said that the team is talking to other drivers as well because they're trying to explore the best possible opportunities for their team, the current lineup has the best looking chances as of now. It's clear that Perez is currently having his best season since he's been with us. If he can keep up these performances, especially qualifying in Japan, then he's definitely the best option for Red Bull in 2025. He is a team player and has now realised that his radical approach in terms of setup last year was the wrong one. Now he has a setup much more similar to Max's. The situation is very clear for Sainz. He could choose to continue competing up front with a team like Red Bull or potentially Mercedes, with the twist being that the 2026 season offers a massive shake-up that is dubbed to propel Mercedes up at the front. But this is not a guarantee that could be given to him in the contract. Red Bull have also announced very good news about their 2026 project. So, if Sainz is to join the Austrian squad, it's very likely the competitiveness of him and Verstappen would continue to be at the highest level, just like it was during his Ferrari days, with the opportunity to challenge him in the same car. When talking about his future, Sainz was adamant that he's not in a rush because all of his best options are still available, which is a positive thing, and all he has to do is outperform the SF24 to the best possible manner to prove to both Red Bull and Mercedes that if he is to sign by either one of them, they're not going to receive a puppet of a driver who would obey the rules in favour of the superstar driver that is already present in the team. Adding furthermore to this, Sainz said, "For sure, all my best options are still open, which is a positive thing and something that requires a bit of time given the situation of the market. It's going to take some time for everyone to make up their own minds and make their own decisions, but the good options are still open. There's been barely any progress over the last couple of weeks, so there's nothing really to update you on. It gets to a point where the sooner everything develops, the better at the same time. It's not like it's affecting my performances at all this year, but the earlier you take the situation out of your head, the better. But it requires time and some decision making, so as I said last week, we'll let that happen and see how things progress." Of course, the recent power struggles in Red Bull suggest that if there is someone brave enough to take on the role of having Verstappen as his teammate in a team he's currently dominating, maybe the next leader of the team, if this tiny challenge of dethroning the Dutchman is successful, but unless somebody steps up to it, it would all be a theory and something we won't want to speculate on any further. For Sainz, however, the chances of joining Red Bull have been boosted not only by the talk of Marko, but also due to the fact that Ferrari has seen a massive improvement in their performance in the 2024 season, hinting towards the fact that the number 2 seat for Perez in the Drivers' Championship is definitely not a guarantee. If Perez performs poor, or at least a lot less competitive compared to everyone else not named Max Verstappen, he would automatically put the team in danger in the battle in the Constructors' Championship. And that's the last scenario the team would want to have entering in the 2026 season, once the entire grid will be shaken up by the new regulations. This is why Horner said that the best possible scenario for Red Bull is having an outside hire as all things stand right now, given the poor performance of Ricciardo and Honda's departure to Aston Martin being linked with Tsunoda's future as well, doesn't bode well when it comes to looking at their own pool of drivers to replace Perez. This is something that Lawrence Barretto has talked about, and even though he says sources close to Red Bull tell him that they're still not willing to give up on Ricciardo's future with the team, the latest statements coming from Ricciardo himself and Helmut Marko point directly in the opposite direction. Elaborating on the currently hottest topic on the grid, which is the second seat in Red Bull, Lawrence said, "As it stands, Horner insists Checo has the priority, and sources say that he has gained considerable kudos within the team in the way he's approached the start of this year, which in turn has pushed him higher up in Red Bull's thinking. Sainz very much remains in the mix, and Red Bull are not ruling Ricciardo out yet, despite him losing some of its shine within the team." Now, the bad situation with Sainz is that he has a lucrative offer from Audi, which he cannot wait on for a long period of time, as the German manufacturer has already stated that they plan on forming up the 2025 and 2026 lineup as soon as possible. Even though their entrance in the sport is not going to happen until next year, they'll have a massive say in who gets to drive for the team in the upcoming campaign due to the accommodation process that will take place in 2025. And that's contrary to what Red Bull is planning, to wait out and see the performance of Perez for as long as they can before they decide on the future of the Mexican driver. However, if they are planning to sign Sainz, they would be smart to acknowledge this risk of him being taken away by a team like Audi or Mercedes. The risk of Mercedes being much higher due to their hopes of being back at the top of the grid from 2026 onwards. And this is where things are going to get interesting in the following period as well, because as I mentioned earlier in this video, Perez expects to see his future in Red Bull being prolonged, and when talking about this matter in a further extent, the Mexican driver said it's only a matter of time until he receives a new contract with the team, further adding, "Certainly, things are moving along earlier than I'd like to. I think given how the whole market is, we're going to be making decisions fairly quickly. In the coming weeks, I expect to know my future. Everything is moving quite fast, so I think it's important not to wait for too long. I'm 100% committed to Red Bull. At the end of the day, I've been in the sport for a long time, but I'm only 34 years old, and when you see all the drivers carrying on, we can see a lot longer careers these days. I'm still very fresh and very motivated. I have no doubt that 100% I'll be here next year." Furthermore, Perez addressed the rumours about being replaced in Red Bull with a driver of a more competitive and younger nature, like Sainz, as he laughed about this matter and said that if you are to start asking everyone, even the Sky F1 pundits could be taking his seat and are considered legitimate contenders for it. Therefore, with Perez's trust being very much positive and invested towards Red Bull, and with Sainz's lucrative offer from Audi being too good to turn a blind eye on, one couldn't help but wonder whether the Spaniard would choose a bit more competitiveness in the following years rather than the money, because it's obvious that there won't be a similar offer coming from any other team money-wise other than Audi. So, where do you think Sainz will end up at the end of the 2024 season? And more importantly, do you think he'll choose a competitive seat over the lucrative offer from Audi? Let us know in the comments down below.